Welcome to the first webinar in our series for European pilots. This webinar is intended for pilots who have not yet had any experience with ForeFlight. The ForeFlight mobile app is a very comprehensive tool that supports pilots in all phases of flight, from planning to review. However, it also means that pilots should regularly familiarize themselves with the app to learn how to use the functions required for their specific flight profile. We aim to support this process through our webinar series. After a brief introduction to ForeFlight, I will provide an overview of the interface and some basic tools to help plan a simple visual flight. The webinar concludes with a flight demonstration and a simulation. ForeFlight was founded in 2007 and was the first aviation app for Apple systems. Today, pilots in general aviation, business aviation, the military, and commercial airlines worldwide use ForeFlight products. Our employees work all over the world. ForeFlight has offices in Houston and Austin, Texas, Portland, Maine, Odense, Denmark, and Adelaide, Australia. What is unique is that more than half of our employees have a pilot's license and fly themselves. Following ForeFlight's acquisition by Boeing in 2019, collaboration with Jeppesen, a leader in aviation data and maps, intensified. This year, Jeppesen and ForeFlight have merged to form a single company, entirely dedicated to serving the aviation industry as a leading technology provider. What makes ForeFlight so unique? ForeFlight is a one-stop-shop solution for visual and instrument flight. Using ForeFlight during training enables you to apply this knowledge later when transitioning to flying in business aviation, the military, or commercial aviation. The data and maps in the ForeFlight mobile app are updated every 28 days according to the official cycle, ensuring they are always up to date to enable safe and reliable flying anywhere in the world. ForeFlight also includes a comprehensive range of tools and weather forecasts for planning and briefing flights worldwide. During flight, ForeFlight provides pilots with visual and audible warnings of hazards. These could be including obstacles, other traffic, or airspace restrictions. ForeFlight continues to offer the broadest support for installed avionics or mobile devices used for traffic detection or information import. The app contains much more. Further features will be demonstrated during the webinar series. The user interface of the ForeFlight mobile app on the iPhone and the iPad is similarly structured. All devices offer the same tools. A ForeFlight account allows you to use up to 3 devices simultaneously. For example, 2 iPads and 1 iPhone. ForeFlight has 3 different license levels: Starter, Essential, and Premium. These differ in their range of functions. The license levels required for a function are displayed on the lower right side of the screen. When you use ForeFlight for the very first time, the test license provides you with unlimited access to all features for 30 days. Familiarize yourself with all the features within these slightly more than 4 weeks and decide which range of functions is suitable for your individual flight profile. At the bottom of the screen, you can switch between the different sections of the mobile app, called tabs. The number of tabs displayed depends on the type and model of the device being used. On a phone, there are only a few, while on an iPad in landscape mode there are more. The arrangement can be individually configured, but this will be demonstrated in one of the upcoming webinars. Information is exchanged between these different tabs. The Airport Overview provides detailed information on thousands of airports worldwide, including weather, procedure charts, as well as NOTAMs. The overview of weather maps includes diverse weather forecasts for all regions worldwide. And in the Documents tab, you find all manuals for the ForeFlight mobile app, so that you can quickly look up a function if in doubt. A comprehensive and very helpful tool, accessible across multiple tabs, is the search bar. This search bar allows you to search for locations, waypoints, airports, and much more. You can switch between a system keyboard and an aviation keyboard, specifically configured for quickly entering aviation-specific terms. When a term is entered in the search bar, matching results are listed. For the search bar function of the map view, airports are listed first, followed by approach charts or maps for navigation on airports, navigation aids such as waypoints, VFR or NDB, places, or terms searched for in the past. If the desired destination doesn't appear immediately, you can scroll down at the list to find it. The Quick Filter sidebar menu is located on the left side of the screen. There, you can choose between 3 pre-configured views for visual flights or instrument flight in the lower or upper airspace. And you can also selectively show or hide individual map elements. This helps to declutter the map quickly. Tapping the 3 dots below the map selection allows you to access the settings of the currently selected map view. This function will also be covered in more detail in later webinars. At this point, I would like to mention that especially for visual flight during the day, it's advisable to set the map theme to light, terrain to shaded, and to display all cultural elements. At the top of the list, you can set the time after which this setting menu closes automatically. In this example, it's set to 15 seconds. However, simply tapping anywhere on the map is also enough to close these sidebar menus. This applies to all these additional windows. Even though the aeronautical chart layer already contains all aviation-relevant elevation information, the ForeFlight mobile app offers the option to display additional maps or data overlays. These data overlays could include, for example, the NOTAM map layer, which displays active and planned restricted areas, or the GAFOR, General Aviation Weather Forecast, which is provided as an area forecast for Germany and as a route forecast for the Alpine countries. To get a detailed forecast for a specific area, tap the icon with the 3 forecast periods and the full report will be displayed on the right side of the screen. This also applies, of course, to the route forecast in the Alpine countries. As mentioned previously, additional maps such as Street View or area maps can also be displayed in the ForeFlight mobile app. Or the Europe VFR layer, which contains ICAO charts for individual European countries provided for free of charge. Additionally, supplementary charts from other providers must be purchased separately with a ForeFlight license. A common question for our support team is: why is no ICAO chart displayed for my region even though the Europe VFR layer is activated? The answer is simple. Only Iceland, the Faroe Islands, Denmark, Lithuania, the Netherlands, France, Spain, Switzerland and Italy provide the free chart in the Europe VFR layer. Charts for other countries must be purchased and added to your license. However, the following shows that the aeronautical chart layer already contains all the information needed to conduct visual and instrument flight reliable and safely. To conclude this overview, I would like to discuss the More menu, which opens to the right of the screen and initially contains the configurable timer at the button. At the top of the list, you can manage the data to be downloaded or change the app settings. This menu also contains additional map sections, such as the logbook, mass and balance calculations, the aircraft database, user-generated content, and much more. I would like to draw special attention to the Discover tab, marked with New, where you not only see events, but can access blog posts, training videos, or webinar content. For the following flight planning, I will use or check some map settings. To do this, tap on the gear icon at the top and scroll down the list. Route labels are enabled here. This means that the names of the waypoints and any changes in altitude are displayed. I have switched off the operational nodes, as their information is essentially mostly relevant for IFR flights. I enabled the extended center lines and distance rings, as well as the glide advisor, which indicates the area during flight where the aircraft can land in an event of an engine failure. In the NOTAM settings, further down the list, I have disabled the NOTAMs for obstacles for this webinar. With these settings, we can begin. The map in the ForeFlight mobile app is interactive. A quick tap on the map element shows the corresponding information, as shown here for the wind farm. A long press on the same spot will display the airspace located at that location. Here, for example, is the Langen flight information region with its corresponding frequency. When one of the airspaces is selected, the area is highlighted on the map. The list also includes the communication frequency and detailed information of nearby airfields, waypoints, navigation beacons, and other pertinent data. Using 2 fingers, you can zoom in on the desired departure airport for route planning. As you can see, more and more chart details are becoming visible, including the traffic pattern and the traffic pattern altitude. A quick tap here displays 2 elements. First, the temporary restricted area, which remains in effect until the end of December. The details state that this restricted area is active daily until the end of December between 7:30 p.m. and 3 a.m. Zulu. We can ignore, therefore, these for a planned daytime VFR flight. Second is information about the Tannheim airfield. The information page lists the frequencies and opening hours. In the upper section, you can find information about sunrise, sunset times, as well as beginning and end of the civil twilight. The weather information section indicates that meteor data is not available for Tannheim, but is reported by nearby locations such as Memmingen or Laupheim. For this airfield, the daily weather forecast therefore is used. This report is 33 minutes old, as indicated in the upper right corner of the list. Tapping on any day opens a window displaying the hourly weather forecast. At the bottom, a colored band indicates the weather conditions, which are color-coded according to the categories VFR, marginal VFR, IFR, and low IFR. The forecast for Tannheim before Tuesday indicates rather unremarkable weather. According to the forecast for Tuesday, November 11, VFR conditions are expected throughout the day, and we want to fly on Tuesday. There's also available information about the runways and so on. After reviewing the details again, the airport can be added to the route by tapping the Add to Route icon. The search bar is used to select our destination airport, Innsbruck. Either the ICAO code or the name can be entered. Innsbruck is listed at first at the top. The app centered the map on Innsbruck and displayed the airport details on the right-hand side. Weather information for Innsbruck shows that Innsbruck has VFR weather today, and the weather forecast for Tuesday indicates that VFR conditions can be expected throughout that day. Tapping Add to Route again, adds Innsbruck to the route and draws a magenta line between departure and destination airports. Since a visual flight to Innsbruck is planned, the VFR arrival and departure routes are of primary interest. When zooming out of the map, the arrival and departure routes are shown in corresponding colors, with departure routes in purple and arrival routes in green. Routes that can be used in both directions are shown in both colors accordingly. What is the most sensible route to get to Innsbruck from the west? For this, I use a tool that was already shown. Specifically, I display the VFR routes in the map overlays. These are displayed as area forecast for Germany and as route forecast for the Alpine countries. It can be seen that there is a VFR route that leads directly to Innsbruck via Whiskey 1 and Whiskey 2. To highlight the route, I'll tap on this one. The forecast details on the right side of the screen display the weather conditions for this route along with the corresponding forecast period, and the route is highlighted accordingly. The planned route can now be manually edited by rubber banding the route line and inserting waypoints along the VFR route. Whenever the route is released, waypoints, airfields and nav aids located in the vicinity are displayed in ascending order of distance from that point. Here, VFR reporting point Whiskey 1 for Innsbruck. Tapping on the waypoint is adding that waypoint to the route. This way I can edit the entire route, which I now do in a quick run-through. As can be seen, waypoints can also be added by using coordinates. To display the entire planned route, tap the icon in the bottom left corner with the 3 dots. The entire planned route is now visible in the map, and the VFR overlay can be hidden again at that point. Since the NOTAM over Tannheim is not relevant for the planned flight, and no other NOTAMs are visible for the planning purposes, that NOTAM overlay is also hidden, decluttering the map. Another way to edit the route is via the flight planning window. Here, waypoints can be edited, changed or deleted. The aircraft model used for the flight can also be selected in the FPL window. At Cessna 172 with appropriate power settings will be used for the webinar. Customers with a premium license have the option to select from the performance profile specified in the manual for this flight. People with a starter essential license can use their self-created performance profiles here. When the 60% power setting is selected, the corresponding values for the flight are automatically displayed at the bottom of the flight planning window. The flight distance is 81 nautical miles, and the flight will take approximately 46 minutes. If departing immediately, the estimated time of arrival would be 8:46 Zulu, fuel consumption is estimated as 19.4 liters, and the average wind speed along the route at this time is 4 knots of tailwind. Another tool is a dynamic navlog. The dynamic navlog lists all waypoints and all segments of the route, along with their respective length, fuel consumption for each segment, and estimated flight time. It also summarizes all of this information. During the flight, the remaining distance, flight time, and estimated time of arrival at each waypoint are displayed based on the GPS determined position and current ground speed. This is incredibly useful when flying in regions where air traffic control frequently requests the estimate. Then, based on this dynamic navlog, accurate position reports can be provided and ATC can create a good situational picture based on them. In the dynamic navlog, the route can be quickly adjusted by tapping individual waypoints and selecting Direct to. However, it's also possible to either fly directly to the waypoint or activate the respective leg by tapping the arrow to the left of the waypoint. The main advantage of this method is that the original route is preserved and no waypoints are deleted, unlike with Direct to. An important aspect of flight preparation is a suitcase icon marked with a red exclamation mark located at the bottom of the flight planning window. The pack function lists the necessary information to perform this flight and should be downloaded so that this data remains available even without an internet connection during the flight. If a country I want to fly to is not enabled for permanent data download, the pack function ensures that the necessary information is downloaded and available for the flight. This data will not be updated later if this country has not been enabled for permanent download, but that will be part of a more advanced seminar. Once the download has started, you can close the window and the download will continue in the background. Customers with an essential license or higher have additional route planning options via the profile view. The profile view shows the planned flight route in relation to terrain or airspace along the route. Here too, a summary of entire flight path is visible at the bottom. The route can be changed by tapping on a waypoint and adding an altitude change. 6,500 feet as shown here. It is initially assumed that the change in altitude begins at that waypoint. By changing start at to cross at, you can specify that you will fly over this waypoint at a different altitude. Anyone who looked closely should see that something changed in the map view while I activated the profile view. A corridor was displayed along the route, showing the highest terrain elevations and obstacles for each individual leg. The width of this corridor can also be adjusted using the gear icon. Here you can also specify whether the corridor is displayed automatically when the profile view or the hazard advisor is activated, the corridor is permanently displayed, or whether it should be permanently hidden. Furthermore, the width of the corridor can be set depending on the region being flown in and the individual flight profile. When flying in the Alps, a corridor width of half a nautical mile might be optimal. When the window is closed, the corridor disappears again as it has been set to automatic. Another tool available for customers with an essential license or higher is the Hazard Advisor, which has already been mentioned. Based on the GPS altitude, the Hazard Advisor displays the terrain and obstacles color-coded according to their vertical distance, with obstacles marked in yellow or red depending on the settings. On the right side of the screen there is an option to set the planned flight altitude. At the planned altitude of 4,500 feet, it is clear which waypoints or critical sections of terrain lie along the route. The Hazard Advisor can also be used to determine which valleys are feasible to enter at the current flight altitude and which are dangerous. In this region, when entering the valley from the north, we see that continuing southwards is uncritical, while turning westwards into the valley is dangerous because the peaks at the end of the valley might make it impossible to cross them. The Hazard Advisor helps make decisions about which valley to avoid. And the Hazard Advisor is not only available during the planning, it's also available during the flight. The following features are now available to everyone again. Therefore, I'm hiding the Hazard Advisor. The weather situation is crucial for visual flight. ForeFlight offers a whole range of weather tools, starting with radar overlay, and the current radar echoes are displayed. These are updated every 5 minutes and provide a relatively accurate reflection of the current situation. As soon as we see one of these data overlays, a timestamp appears in the top left corner of the map. This timestamp shows when this information was last updated. If certain thresholds are exceeded, these numbers are automatically displayed in yellow or red. In areas where radar is unavailable, the enhanced satellite layer would be the optimal choice. The yellow timestamp indicates that the information may already be outdated and will need to be updated shortly. But that's sufficient for the demonstration, and we can see that the enhanced satellite weather provides information worldwide. Other weather layers include, for example, surface analysis, which displays pressure conditions on a global basis. By moving the slider at the bottom of the screen, you can observe how the pressure conditions will change within the next 24 hours. A wide range of additional weather information is available. For example, by displaying airfields according to their flight category. When this weather layer is activated, weather information for an airfield is automatically displayed when it's tapped. Airports with VFR conditions are shown in green, those with marginal VFR conditions in blue, those with IFR conditions in red, and airports with low IFR conditions in magenta. Other weather data includes surface, wind, and wind aloft, with the altitude selection displayed on the right side of the screen again. Also shown is the spread, means the temperature difference between the current temperature and the dew point, which is a good indication for visibility at these locations. Reported visibility, temperature, cloud base, cloud coverage, and so are also displayed. All these features are available to all ForeFlight customers. With this preparation, the briefing can be conducted directly before the flight, providing good overview of weather conditions during the flight. The entire process will be documented appropriately later so that the weather briefing can be verified. Some of you may have noticed that the airspace around Zurich, Stuttgart and Munich is shown here in a dimmed form. That's intentional. The function is called Auto Highlight and can be activated via the VFR map view settings. In the airspace settings, there is an option to turn Auto Highlight on or off. The advantage of the Auto Highlight is that only airspaces relevant to the planned or current flight are highlighted, while those not on the planned route are shown in a dimmed form. If the aircraft approaches such airspace during the flight, it will be automatically highlighted again, so that there is no risk of unintentionally flying into the airspace. Furthermore, airspaces starting at a flight level 100 are hidden here, means all airspaces above a flight level 99 or 9,900 feet. Additionally, airspaces activated via NOTAM is hidden. The NOTAM overlay is then used to provide an overview of active restricted areas. Once restrictions have been made to the airspace settings, a blue banner appears in the bottom right corner of the screen, allowing changes to be made quickly. The map will be cleaned up before the flight. Only what's truly needed for the flight should be visible. These are obstacles and the aeronautical map layer. To receive a briefing and submit the flight plan, the flight planning window will be opened. And the created flight can now be shared with Flight View, the Plate View, or the logbook. If the device is connected to the supported avionics from Garmin, Avidyne, Dynon or other manufacturers, this flight plan can also be sent directly to the avionics. When sending data to the Flight View, a corresponding form is generated. This form provides access to the navlog, which is available to all customers in two versions: Basic and Standard. For those with a premium license, there is also an international navlog which reflects the extended planning options of this license. The Flight View also provides access to the briefing pack, which is currently being created and should ideally be updated again shortly before the flight. The briefing pack includes the vertical cross-section chart, which displays icing, turbulence and temperatures en route. Furthermore, a chart for wind, temperature and turbulence in plan view, sigma charts, airmates and sigmats if delivered, and finally NOTAMs for the airfields or en route. The flight plan can then be filed by using Proceed to File, and once a flight plan has been submitted, the flight can begin. During flight, ForeFlight provides many tools to help better assess the situation. One of these is the distance rings, which can be adjusted at any time by tapping the ring's label. This allows you to change the setting to either distance in nautical miles or kilometers, or in time, and also between fixed preset values and automatic values that adjust according to the selected zoom level. On the map, we also find information at the boundaries of the flight information areas or airspaces, such as transponder code and monitoring frequency for transponder mandatory zones, or simply the frequency for flight information regions. The map itself can be set by tapping the compass rose in the top right corner between north up and track up. Once again, switch between track up and north up in the top right corner. In addition, the terrain and obstacles, as seen here above Memmingen, are colored according to their vertical distance to the current position. More information can be displayed by switching on the instrument bar that appears at the bottom of the screen. Here you have the option to customize each field. For example, setting Zulu time or the air pressure of the nearest airfield with corresponding reporting, the GPS altitude, and so on. Every field can be customized individually. Those who have purchased an add-on for synthetic vision in addition to the starter license, or who have an essential license or higher, can enable synthetic vision for better situational awareness. Here too, the terrain and obstacles are colored according to their vertical distance from the current altitude. Airports in synthetic vision can also be marked. Additionally, traffic appears in synthetic vision, accompanied by corresponding warnings. As you approach a control zone, a corresponding visual and audio warning is issued.
CDR in 2.3 miles.
With this preparation, ForeFlight can be used to conduct flights reliably. After landing, the flight can be sent to the logbook, where a corresponding entry will be made. This entry can be linked to a track log. The suggested times are checked, changed if necessary, and then saved in the logbook. Using a previously recorded flight as an example, I would like to demonstrate the evaluation options offered by ForeFlight. After a check ride, you can see how individual exercises were flown, for example how speed and altitude were maintained during the steep turns. Customers with a premium license can also view the whole thing in a three-dimensional view and retrace their flight. This was a webinar for beginners, and hopefully you have gained a first impression of the various options that ForeFlight offers. Another webinar on visual flight rules will follow. Now we start answering questions asked during the webinar. Yeah, and for answering the questions, so I want to share my screen of the iPad. The first question was when demonstrating here Tannheim, the traffic pattern, and so everything seems to be a little bit small. Is it possible to change the size of the text? Yes, it's possible. Tap on VFR, the three settings, and then you have that slider to adjust all text elements on the screen to an appropriate size. Second question was, is there something to measure distances on the map? Yes, there's a ruler. Use two fingers, tap and hold on the map, and you can measure distances between places. For example, you can see the magnetic direction, the distance, and when releasing the fingers, you can also see the flight time and the fuel consumption with a plane, what is configured currently in the FPL window. We will talk a little bit more about the ruler because there are many things more you can do with it in the coming webinar, 2nd of December in English and 4th of December in German. A question was regarding the add-on charts. So is it possible to use add-on charts purchased via another provider? Unfortunately not. So that provider has his own contract with a chart provider, and you need to add the chart to the ForeFlight license, but the ForeFlight licensing is very, very flexible. So in case you want to fly to a specific region, for example, Norway, you want to have the Avenir charts for a specific time, you can renew your ForeFlight license and all the remaining value of the license is credited to your account. You add these add-on charts for Avenir, for example, and when returning from the flight, you can renew again and remove the charts, and so you pay only for the use time. It's very flexible and it's a common used method. Another question was, is the webinar recorded? Yes, the webinar is recorded and will be available on YouTube, I think tomorrow. In case you have questions, don't hesitate to contact our support team via team@foreflight.com via email, and the colleagues are happy to support you with other questions. So there are some questions more. Is the logbook full EASA compliant? So at the moment, if you go to logbook and the logbook settings, you can change many things, but there's something missing. What will come soon. Let's say it that way. Uh, is there a way to add a GAFA route directly to a flight plan instead of adding user waypoints? Yeah, it's a good question. If we look to the GAFA route, it looks great, and if you had the chance, let's for a GAFA route, to add this route here to a flight plan, that would be great. But as you can see, there are more than one waypoints in that route. It's following the terrain, of course, and so it's hard to display that many waypoints in the flight plan. So for the flight plan, yeah, it's not possible to add the route because the flight plan will be used for filing a flight plan, and so it has to contain all the waypoints which will be filed. But yeah, you can send that feature request to team@foreflight.com, and probably some of our developers has a good idea how we can use that for VFR flights. I like that idea. Is there an integration with avionics so that I can change the radio frequency on my radio? So, yeah, that must be a real VFR pilot. So, in my workflow, it's I get the frequency from ATC, especially when flying in different regions. You usually don't know what frequency is coming next. So you get the frequency from ATC. I use personally use that map annotation, write the frequency down, read it back, then I put it into the radio, check the radio against that what I have written down, and then I enable the different frequency. Yeah, so I know there are for selected VHF radios, China boxes, they can use these kind of tools. We don't support that. We only support the certified avionics from Garmin, Evidyne, and Dynan, and specific mobile traffic and ADS-B receivers. Um, so for traffic and in-flight weather, so beside Finland, I don't know if you have known that the first UAT weather station is active since a week in Switzerland now. More will be followed. Okay, this, oh, yeah, so Adam, I read your question regarding the Sentry Plus. So I will look or search for the ticket and go to you directly. It's about FLAM signals. So when using the Sentry Plus and in an aircraft, you have the option to receive ADS-B and FLAM traffics parallel. So in the on the map, there is no difference between the traffic because traffic is traffic. You only will recognize FLAM traffic when tapping on a traffic target, and then you see the source of the information if it's ADS-B or FLAM. And I by myself had during the test phase of the Sentry Plus FLAM up to 10 nautical miles distance. So what was, on my opinion, very good for a FLAM device. So here's somebody asking a very specific German question. If the German Weather Service DVD cross-section display is used. So what we are using is worldwide weather based on the global weather forecast or Jeppesen weather. So if you have a specific requirement or request for weather, please send it to team@foreflight.com. So that's for the moment. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being online for an hour. As I said, the following webinars, the advanced VFR webinar will be in the first week of December. Would be great if you could join again and have a great evening. Thank you and goodbye.